And you just need to duplicate the screen.
Hmm?
Just need to duplicate the screen.
Okay. After
Yeah, once the presentation starts, just duplicate.
just Fn,
No, Windows and P.
Windows and P for duplication. Okay, you can
And
just
then
put
take
it here,
duplicate. Yeah.
and I'll just press this one when I come.
We would like to invite people to please come inside the conference hall as we're ready to begin. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to this session. So those who could be outside possibly can join us and find us going for the interest of time. Once again, I'm David Karanja from Twitter Dev Service. I'll be co-chairing this session, part 2. And I guess we are energized after the hot cup of coffee and tea. So we'll have 2 presentations. We are doing well on time. So I'll ask the speakers to also keep time so that we can have more engagement, further engagement, discussions for the plenary. So we'll have, as a continuation of the discussion on information management in addressing all different forest crime, we'll have a presentation on another powerful tool on wildlife enforcement monitoring system by Mr. Dehan. So kindly, let's welcome him with a clap so that we can have a session. Mr. Dehan, welcome.
Thank you, Chair and Co-Chair. So ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rehan, and I'm a PhD candidate at the Asian Institute of Technology, and also I'm working as a research associate at WEM's secretariat, which is located inside AIT. So today I'll brief you a bit about Wildlife Enforcement Management System, that what is WEMS actually. So basically, WEMS is a web-based information system which has different add-ons which are like with a GIS functionality, and it was developed initially by United Nations University in 2005, and the basic purpose to make this make WEMS was to facilitate the governments so that they can share, compile, and analyze the information in a universal way, so that they can the information which is coming from different sources can be managed in a nicer way. So the vision of the WEMS initiative is an action-oriented tool that can lead to the collaborative enforcement of legislations based on the biodiversity and species conservation and can help support the SDGs. So right now the WEMS has different add-ons and or different parts. One of them is Geospatial information system. Second one is a mapping platform. The third one, it can help generate different types of reports. One of them is CITES illegal wildlife report. And then there is a capacity development component and research and outreach component that will come from the information which is coming in WEMS. So it's a free software, and it's a GIS-based model, and it can help to monitor the effectiveness of legislation at national and or regional level. It is a very common platform which can be used for sharing information among local and national sector agencies, and it's a tool which can be used to integrate national efforts nationally and regionally. And from recently, because CITES, they need illegal wildlife trade report, so WEMS can also help to generate those reports. Okay, let me tell you about the history. It was started as the main act which was behind this WEMS was the Freedom of Information Act. It was in the phase 1, it was started like this. And it was a civil society-based information gathering platform. And then later in the phase 2, using the sovereignty principle and enforcement jurisdiction, there were some changes made in this, and then it was deployed in East Africa through the Lusaka Agreement Task Force, and it was initially deployed in Congo, Kenya, Liberia, and Tanzania, and later in Uganda and Zambia. So it, as I said earlier, that it helps support the like the illegal wildlife trade report from CITES, and in a way, the information which is coming can also help to support the SDGs and multilateral environment agreements. It was also like in 2016 in UN Kenya report on UN Kenya conference on space technology, it was mentioned that the information which is being obtained by from the software or mapping platforms like WEMS could be useful to determine the variables that are needed to understand the state of biodiversity. So that information can be used to find the drivers of biodiversity change or the drivers which are affecting the wildlife crimes, for example. And in 2018, it was mentioned in the tools and resources to combat illegal wildlife trade, which is a World Bank report. And they also said that it can help to compile the wildlife information in a better way, and the trials are being made in Asia and Africa, for example. So from 2017 onwards, CITES urged all member states to submit their annual illegal wildlife trade report. So each member country have to submit that report in October of each next year. That what happened in the last one whole year, the wildlife crimes and all the like different problems which were related with the wildlife crimes, they have to submit those reports. And they like finalize a format, And the VEMS can help in that thing, because on some clicks, you can get the same. If you put your data in the VEMS, then after some clicks, you can get the annual illegal trade report of CITES. The format is there. This is like the VEMS conceptual model, actually, in which the offense is the central, and all other things, they are just coming towards this. And for this one, if more details, our main team who developed it is also here. They can also help you with this thing. Okay, from the data which we enter in VEMS, we can get different types of outputs. The nominal data can be transferred into a format which is similar, like Interpol eco-message format. And the non-nominal data, we can divide it into different forms. Non-spatial data analysis, we can get the statistical outputs, like which species is more trafficked, which species has more value, or which country, in which countries there are more cases, for example. And for the spatial data, we can add the similar data on ISRI or Harvard maps, and we can also create the story maps. And the ready-made formats, like I already told, that CITES illegal wildlife trade reports are already there. So this is one summary report which you get from some data. You can see that the species, different species which are being trafficked, or what is the value of that annual trade, and which countries have reported how many cases. These all can come and can be shown in a very nice way. And what are the hotspots for illegal wildlife trade? Okay, so in case of Africa, as Lusaka Agreement Task Force, they are managing it. Their system is based on this, that the people, who authorized people, can enter the information. And that information can only be changed by that person who entered the information. So in this way, there is no information, like there cannot be any changes in the information. And only the country A, for example, here, if the country wants, then only he will share the information with anyone. If they think that the information which is, if the wildlife trade, because in most of the cases, the wildlife trade is between countries or even between continents. So there is a greater need for information sharing in this regard. But if the country A think that this specific case or this specific information need to be shared with another country, then through a common platform, they can share this information. But it is only their own, like if they want, then they can share, otherwise it's their, everything is in their control. They want, they can share, otherwise it's no need. And for more details on this, on VEMS software, there is one intergovernment meeting for enhancing cooperation for information sharing, which will be today from 1830 to 2030. And the representatives from the governments from Asia and Africa, they are welcome to join. And they will get hands-on training during that time. And I thank you all. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that informative presentation. We can take 2 or 3 questions. If you have questions or a comment or clarification on that particular presentation on the WEMS as a tool for information management and sharing. Do you have any questions from the members? Seems we don't have. So once again, let's put our hands together for that presentation. Thank you very much, Mr. Rehan. We'll go to the our final presentation for this session on global Earth observation systems by Dr. Lemmy. So most welcome, and let's listen to his presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Songkir, Mr. David, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to present here. And actually, this is the first time I'm not talking about WEMS. And if you know about geoinformation systems, you know that people who have worked on it know that it's very practically useful. But when it comes to sharing of information, it is always a challenge. And especially when you have a situation like a natural disaster or a poaching incident or an emergency, in most often you have a situation where geospatial data do not get in time. So this is something that we have to look into. And I'm a part of the data sharing working group of GEOS. And we decided that at this meeting it is important to bring this up of the work of the data sharing working group, especially in making aware about the countries of the need to share geospatial data. For those who are not familiar with GEOS, it is intergovernmental partnership, and and it's the main objective is to improve the sharing and availability of Earth information, Earth observation for the benefit of humanity. Well, it was formed mostly in, it was actually generated in 2002 World Summit for Sustainable Development. And then since then, we have been progressing very well, and the Geosecretariat is in Geneva. So I think gradually there is a good progress, and there's a lot of information that is on geospatial data in the system. So what do the geo countries do? There is around 105 member states, and there's also participating organizations. So GEO is not just for countries, it also has partnering private institutions and other entities as well. Because now geospatial data is not just with government, there are several private actors also involved in it. So it is important to compile all this information for effective action. So I think, for example, we have systems like SMART and WEMS, which has got poaching data, geospatial poaching data. I think those kind of information, if it can be shared into the GEOS platform, it will be very useful for so many of the decision makers to make informed decisions on poaching. So what GEOS has to offer, the thing is, it has a huge platform, and it incorporates all those data. The countries that have shared the information goes into a platform which is GEOS, and those data are freely available for download to all the member states. And of course, it's very much important for meeting the SDG goals. So that is something that has to be worked out as well, because in that situation, we need to have a good data sharing process as well. So this is a GEOS platform where you can actually search for geospatial data and also get the required information. So I'm already explained about it. The GEOS is a set of coordinated, independent, open Earth observation collection, and it can be used by anyone who has access to it, and it has no restriction on the usage of data. And these are some of the partnering institutions that are involved. It's in 35 languages and 5,000 plus contributing organizations involved as well. So why we need geospatial data? You know, there are, in policy making process, there are three sets of policy process. One is the common, with there's no evidence and where no policies are made. because there was not enough evidence to create a policy. And the second process is there is evidence, but the evidence is inconvenient for the policy process. In many of the transboundary issues are very, what you call in policy terms, it's called the wicked problems, where you cannot make a policy decision based on evidence, and the policy is not based on evidence, but it's a policy-based evidence. Means you counter the evidence and you define a new process. And the third one, of course, that scientifically, which is more acceptable, is the evidence-based policy. And we would like to advocate the evidence-based policy approach. And I think for that we need timely information. And of course, we need to advise governments and policymakers regarding that, whether it is climate change or about illegal wildlife trade and poaching-related matters. So during the Tokyo conference in 4 years back, we had a session on evidence-based policymaking and the use of geoinformation. And at that time, myself and Peter Eridix from ESRI, we created the story map on how we can bring evidence using geospatial data. And this is available online. If you can, it's still, you can search for it. It's called Evidence-Based Policymaking in Addressing Wildlife Crime. And this we developed in collaboration with United Nations University. I was with UNU at the time. And ESRI and United Nations University together put together a story map on using maps as a platform for evidence-based decision-making process. So but though we talk about information in policy process, it's still not widely applied. So last week at the data sharing working group meeting, we discussed about it and thought that we should bring this up at this Bangkok conference so that many government officials are participating, and it is important to make them aware about geos and also the importance of about using timely geospatial data. And so we also conducted a survey to know whether how many countries are actually responding to it, how many countries are actually using it. And of the survey sent, 27 national contacts were primarily contacted, and 12 have responded. It is apparently very low. And now the DSWG team is analyzing the report which the countries have sent. So these are the countries to which that responded, and some of them that are not yet responded. So when we talk about response from countries, sometimes countries, national focal points are also worried about responding to surveys regarding geospatial data. And this makes it very difficult for actually making any kind of timely decision at a global level regarding the same as well. So we used two main parts of the survey. One is the national level information, that is how much countries use information, geospatial data, and second is about the agencies which are involved in the information. Then each level contains categories of questions for example, data policies, data portals, and national coordination for data sharing, etc. And we then found that we could make some changes into the current way geospatial data can be used, and probably we would do another survey which in a much coordinated manner to make just not informing countries about geos, but also to see what kind of policies agencies and national governments have, and whether it is coordinating with each other as well. So the analysis team, which I'm part of as well, is trying to make a recommendation as how GEO member states can improve their efforts in implementing the GEO's data sharing principles. And that is our main objective, so that there is seamless sharing of information. And I know we have different data sets. I know we all, I think, in majority of us in this room are using geospatial data, but how can we share it into a common platform through the GEOS, probably the GEOS platform. So that is one of our objective, and still working on it. And if you think, so we think that it is critical to the ongoing effort to support the global Earth observation data sharing principles, and also in meeting the SDG requirements. So I would recommend that if any of you have not heard of GEOS, or would like to join the GEOS team, or would like to be part of it, please let me know. And these are the group of people who are involved, and we would make sure that your needs are actually met. And we'll also see that we would like to have a very wider participation on data sharing. So please feel free to contact me or any of the GEOS team members as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rami, for that talk, presentation on geosystems. We'll take questions, if there are any. Any questions or comments? In case you don't have any, we'll have a session of discussions. Possibly you can just hold on to your question, then we can discuss them much later. So once again, let's clap for Dr. Ami for that, as he sits. Thank you, sir. I think we are doing well on time, and that's the beauty of managing time. So we'll squeeze in one more presentation, which is of interest to this session. So I'll invite Dr. Kobayashi, who is associate professor at the University of Tokyo, Center for Spatial Information Science, Division of Joint Usage and Research, associate professor, for the presentation.
Sorry.
Technology. So as they set up the presentation by Dr. Kobayashi will be on animal-to-animal sharing mechanism for wildlife monitoring. So let's listen in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. And my name is Kobayashi, and I do really appreciate this unexpected opportunity to present my studies. I've just given to talk by yesterday night, so I didn't have enough time preparation for the good slide. So I hope you understand the gaps that what I expected and what I'm going to say. So I'm studying the interface design studies, so I'm not specific in a specific type of animals and not specific in a specific field. I'm simply developing a tool to help them, the scientists, to understand the acoustic study as well as the environmental issues, especially in using the sensor networks approaches. And as you may know, there are three problems. I'm sure that everyone understands what is the problems. And when we're talking about the animal wearable system, first one is there is coverage problem, which is we cannot choose the animal that if we cannot recapture them, because we have to make sure that we can recapture and retract the data and replace the battery if necessary. And the second problem is because of the body size, there is a restriction on the device itself. We cannot use a heavy and larger battery on a small size. But it will be a different story if we simply use an elephant to ask them to carry sensing device. I know that there has been some study conducted to ask them to carry the heavy batteries with a desktop machine, but this cannot be applied for smaller animals. And the last problem is the reliability issues. When we're talking about the GPS trackers, when the animal is moving on the surface of ground above the dense forest, GPS signal is very weak, which is we cannot accurately extract or receive the information from a satellite. Precise succession rate to receive a GPS signal is about 20%. So I'm not saying that GPS is not possible, but we have to measure, or we have to understand some other techniques to cover the problem. So what is new ideas or new aspect in the interface design? And in my understanding, best things to understand how the animals and what kind of society, what society causing a problem, asking them to, use cell phone and ask them to what is the problem, what can I do? But nowadays, even the computer science and getting smaller, system itself is not designed that way. There are also three problems. When the animals, especially the wild animals, their habitat is most of them are outside infrastructures. There's no cell phone available, and there's no power source available. And the second thing is we do understand what they're trying or intended to say, but scientifically it's not possible to interpret or translate their understanding or intentions. That's why there's no pieces are available for the animals. And overall, in a practical sense, in Japan, even in Japan, 60 or 70% land is signal zones, which is we have nothing. It is simply because economical situation or based on human societies, animals do not pay the phone bill to the phone company. There is no cell phone towers available in the zones. So this is one of the projects, especially I started after the Fukushima disasters. This is just a website that you can actually open it. You can actually hear what is happening there at this moment. And even from my cell phones, you can hear what it sounds like in an exclusion zone, which is only about 10 kilometers from the nuclear power plant. Of course, this is not allowed to enter without permissions. And okay.
このプロジェクトでは福島第一原子力発電所から10キロ離れた立ち入りが困難な帰還困難区域内の今この瞬間の環境音をリアルタイムに24時間配信します。線量の高いこの空間に生息する動物の今この瞬間の様子を皆さんの携帯やパソコンを通じてお伝えすることが目的です。原子力災害についてメディアで伝えられる多くの情報は被災地の現状についてです。それはそれほどリアルタイムではないのと、今後数十年続けてくれるわけではありません。私たちは2011年3月11日の翌日からこのプロジェクトの準備を始めました。通常であれば1ヶ月程度で終わる作業ですが、実に5年の時間を要しました。それでもやらなければならなかったのには理由があります。かつて人と共存していた生き物たちは人がいなくなったこの場所で今この瞬間も生きているからです。私たちは離れた場所で暮らす人間と未だ取り残されている生き物たちの間をネットワークを介してつなげ続けたいと考えています。この空間でそう遠くない未来に途絶える命もあれば、新しく生まれてくる命もあります。この先、生き物たちがどう変わっていくのかを見守り続けたいのです。 私たちはこうした環境問題をリアルタイムに観察し記録するシステムの研究を行ってきました。これまで10年以上の連続運用と記録の実績があります。まずは廃炉作業が完了する日を目標にこのプロジェクトを続けます。
So yes, so this is just one of the project as first stage of the development, and there's also problem to place this type of fixed sensor in a very socially difficult zone takes quite long preparation. In this case, we really spent 5 years to get all the agreement from the government as well as the local community as well. However, this exclusion zone itself is really large, and we want to capture the bioacoustic information everywhere in the exclusion zone. We have to have more 250 stations, but it's not really realistic. So we have to find other way to understand the impacts. So that's why the animal wearable sensing system is actually comes in. So I say 3 problems. So to solve the 3 problems, in this study we are proposing 3 approaches. One is animal-to-animal data sharing mechanism to extend in a coverage. And second is animal touch-and-go mechanism for automated wireless charging and data uploading to increase the operation time. And last thing is special temporal information collection mechanisms for animal, especially living just above the ground and below the dense forest. And the next several slides is just talking about the brief concept, because some of them are undergoing, some of them already published, but still some of them are at the proof of the concept stage. So as you can see the stations that's in exclusion zones, we have to find a way to understand the others. That's myself. It's not a good idea to stand there, but this is for video purposes. So the purpose is trying to ask them to carry the sensing device and ask them to gather information like spatial information or their health information. And when the 2 individuals accidentally come together, the system itself is automatically engaged in information communication between the 2 individuals. Especially system designed that way that it's only turned on when the 2 individuals meet accidentally. And we do recursively do the similar steps, and hopefully one of them get finally close to the nearest base station, and the system itself is automatically upload the information gathers. We already published papers. Okay, next thing is automated wireless charging. Some of them are published already, but still development in this type of tangible interfaces. The idea is when we just carefully observing animals, pets and any animal, they have specific reaction to specific stimuli, which is more precisely if we want to get close with friends like a kitty, or if you want to try catch cat, if you just simply get close, maybe itself is just walk away. But instead, if you just place a box on the ground, and the cat eventually come in and jump into the box, and we could get close easily. So the idea is every species, every animal specific reaction to specific stimuli. In this case, we're using the design to the comfortable, tangible interface that allow the sensor-equipped animals come in and stay there. In that sense, we engage wireless charging as well as information retractions. Okay, last idea is the GPS issues. There's no GPS available. So instead, we decided to use some other reasonable or practical signal to be able to estimate the location of the wild animal. In this case, we focusing on the jet sound as well as emergency broadcasters. especially the sound from the equipment tremendously significant in the forest or outside the city, which is where most of the wild animals live peacefully. So by using triangular method, we simultaneously recording sound of the source, jet sounds, and broadcasting. At the same time, we could estimate the actual, location of the wearable device. And this is still the theoretical development phase, but we succeeded to actually estimate the position of the wild animal, I think plus minus 600 meters without using a GPS. And these are technological preparations, and one of the output from this study is we succeeded to recording the sound and bioacoustic information continuously 1 year in the exclusion zones. And in this slide, I'm not talking about too much detail and scientific insight, but we succeed to measure the peak shift changes, a little bit changes about 6 months on the Japanese bush warbler. But to be accurately conclude the scientific conclusion, further study is needed. So this is also the same problem again. So this problem, this study itself is trying to propose a solution to the coverage problem, as well as the operation time problem, as well as the reliability problem, especially the geolocation information from the idea from interface design studies. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Kobayashi, for that presentation and sharing the results of that study on especially how to overcome the 3 problems that were identified in the exclusion zone. Do you have any questions for Dr. Kobayashi? Or any clarification before we let him leave the stage? Seems you don't have any, so once again, thank you for that presentation. Thank you. We've come to the end of the presentations, and one thing that was learning through from the first presentation that we had up to the last is whatever is resonating is the need to share the information, and the presenters have taken us through various tools that are being deployed in the field, be it in academia, be it by the law enforcement agencies, the tools that are used by the users in the field to ensure that a crime is addressed. And it's evident that we have a variety of tools with different capabilities, geospatial, mapping, producing results, and also the need for us to share, because we have enormous data, we have enormous information, but is it trickling down to the users? Is it informing policy? We are talking about evidence-based policy. So I think it's upon us to utilize that. Of course, there are challenges that have been mentioned, talking about accessibility. And most of this data, or this information that assists in law enforcement or assists in fighting crime, most of this is open source. They are free resources. So, but policy makers and users are aware that this data exists. And if they are aware, what could be the challenges hindering the sharing and use of this information? I think that's for us to discuss if there are any challenges, be it data sharing protocols. They could be different possibly from one agency to agency, from one state to another, or for the non-state actors. So what is hindering the smooth flow of this data? Then the timelessness, because what we need is that timely decision making. So are we sharing this data in a timely manner? So I think those are some of the issues that we need to thrash around, that we need to discuss, either here or when we go back home, such that whatever data that we have, the information that we have from the academia, like for our universities and research institutions, all those innovations that we've talked since yesterday, are they being applicable in the field? Is that data user friendly? Because I'm imagining the tools that we've had, like we had a SMART, we have WEMS. Dr. Let me a second about geo systems, the enormous tools that we've had. Are they user friendly? Because I'm imagining at the rangers down there who are doing the patrols, they are collecting or monitoring information. Are they overwhelmed? Do they have the fatigue? Because I'm imagining at one side you are completing possibly an app, either for WEMS or SMAS. For Interpol, you have the echo message. In our institutions, we have those data collection tools. Are we overwhelming our people? So we needed to have a system that, one, the information is complete and it can be integrated to other systems. So I think those are the points to ponder as we have a discussion. So we'll open up this session. We have about half an hour to an hour before lunch. So we welcome contributions from the plenary on issues that we've discussed this morning. You can seek for clarification, and we can also open for questions for the presenters who did present this morning. They're still around. So we'll pass the mic around in case you need to raise a question or a comment. So the floor is open for discussion. Possibly you indicate where you're directing your question or remarks to the presenters. I think we have one already. The floor is open for Madam there, then we come to them. We possibly pass them.
Thank you very much. I want to commend the presenters for very valuable and very educative. Mine is not a question but just a comment that sharing information is important. Let us not just allow this very valuable information to remain on the shelves. And the researchers who are doing this can package this information into different packages for the various stakeholders. If they are policymakers, let us come up with policy briefs, because that's the language the various governments understand. And also the communities. What is it that you want the communities to know about issues of wildlife, issues of forestry, and issues of biodiversity in general? So let us not keep this information on the shelves. Let us package them to the relevant stakeholders so that it can be useful for the users. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other? Dr. Lem?
thank you, Mr. David, for opening the floor, and thank you, Margaret, for the comments. I have one question. We have different platforms here. We are talking about smart VEMS, and of course, there are plug-in tools like a very interesting presentation from University of Tokyo. And but it often happens in many conferences. You know, the present, and then you all go back, but then you meet again for the next conference. So is there a way that we can all form together, a kind of sit together or think about integrating these tools? Because for policymakers, I think, so you saw from the CITES requirement that they have to, the countries have to submit a national report every year in October, and countries are not in a position to, or do not have an information system that can seamlessly transfer this information. So is there a mechanism where you could actually think about integrating all these ground truth data and transboundary data, as well as spatial data together? So this is my question to the general scientific audience as well.
Thank you, Dr. I think that's a question of the challenge to all of us. I don't have an answer to it, but it underscores the need to move from the talk to the work, so that whatever we discuss, and we can share the information between our agencies, our institutions, and also among states. Possibly, we could pose this to the President, what could be the challenges, because there must be reasons why we are not seeing that effective sharing mechanisms. There could be infrastructural challenges. The data could be in different formats. There could be the SOPs, the protocols of data sharing could be different. I think those are the issues that we needed to address, because we all agree there's need to share these innovative solutions, because we face a similar challenge, be it in Asia, be it in Africa, and the theme of this has been South-to-South cooperation. In Africa, we could be the source of possibly the contraband, the ivory, the rhino horns, and other products. We could be transit countries, and others are destination countries. And for us to tackle this crime, we need to attack it from all angles. We're talking about breaking the syndicates, from attacking from all the rebels. So I think that's something they can ponder about. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, there is no objection that these resources which we're gathering here today to discuss about innovation and how to use technology in protecting belongs to all the population of the world. I think it's high time now we echo together to make sure that the world resources are protected by the current generation, without considering that the tigers belongs to the people of Asia, or the black rhinos belongs to the population of Africa. No, these are world heritage resources. We have to ask ourselves of this mankind. We inherited this because the past population protected it. And that's why together we gathered here, and that's why the resources are here in the world today. We have to, I believe everyone has a religion. I believe that God created us and gave us brain. We have to use this brain to make sure our resources are safe, and we are safe. And we pass it from the current generation to the coming. Now, it should be a challenge for us. How far are we going to synergy this, to share the information, to get the information and integrate it, and make us foster this sustainability of the living resources. Let's take it as a challenge for us all, that we use our brains, our efforts to make the resource safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you very much for all the presentation today since the morning. So nowadays we are going to rely on very much technological aspects for wildlife conservation. We are basically believe in wildlife conservation and wildlife management. Wildlife crime control is another part of wildlife management. You know that every technology we are going to use must have or will have negative impact of wildlife population. We don't know yet. As for example, we are very much dependent on this cell phone. And we have seen in many articles that cell phone is causing damage to our brain and our mental health. So before using this technology, as for example, Hiroki, you are using this one, I don't know what will be the negative impact on wildlife or domestic animals. So, so I think we should think twice before applying any technological thing on wildlife management or wildlife conservation. We are spending a lot of money for technological use, but if we give our eye to the traditional patrolling system, or if we can give funds to the frontline staff who are dedicatedly working for wildlife management and wildlife crime control activities, so that would give us better dividend in future, and where we can have our target fulfilled. So in this case, I would like to ask one question to Kobayashi. So we are now working on dolphin conservation in Bangladesh. You know that Bangladesh having 11 species of cetacean, 3 species of dolphin, or 2 species of dolphin, 1 species of porpoise, and 2 species of whale and 8 species of dolphins. So you know the dolphins are blind. They communicate with each other using their echolocation technique. So is there any possibility to use this acoustic sound to estimate the dolphin population? Hiroki, this question is for you. Thank you.
To only the one specification to understand the population of the dolphin. In my understanding, there is many studies existed to estimate the population of any sea mammals and animals in underwaters. And it is usually they are using several microphones to locate the occurrence of voices from simultaneously recorded through the multiple sound system. Yes, so it is possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair and Co-Chair. Just a brief intervention. It's interesting. I mean, we are almost over a day and a half into this discussion. But, and in this course we've seen like there are lots of different technologies, there are different kinds of solutions, different kind of applications that we are using in different contexts. But what we really need to understand is technology is there to help us make our life easier. But oftentimes there are these competing technologies as well, which tend to make humans more of slave of technology than them serving us. So what I personally think is that we should find ways to get the technologies to be talking to each other, rather than someone sitting in the office putting data in one system and then for another purpose putting data into another reporting system and then coming up with maybe totally different reports, then putting them again together to have another analysis. I mean, that's not what we are looking at. We are trying to make our life easier. So for instance, I've been having discussions with colleagues who are deploying SMART. And this is actually the need coming out of the countries who are saying, yes, we are using SMART as the national, as the protected area management tool. And then, well, we are talking about tools at national or regional level, like WEMS, like in Africa. So is there even a possibility that the two systems actually communicate with each other, extract the data that's needed for each other's databases, and then solves people's problems, makes it easier? And that's what we have been, we have agreed to look into, depending on the demands from the countries. That's one of the things that Thailand has requested, that can SMART talk to WEMS. And that's all about interoperability. And I think that's what we really need to look at, that we don't build layers and layers of technologies trying to displace one technology with another technology, but how we can integrate that to build a strong database, which can perhaps look at different aspects of even SDGs, pulling information from all the different systems that's available at local or national level, or even regional or international level. So I think that's one of the things, as Remy was saying, perhaps, well, we need to look at ways how we can integrate systems, then build more systems to address kind of specific requirements. So yeah, I'm open to suggestions, recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Tosh, for that. He has posed a challenge to us, possibly, and he expects answers on how we can go through that challenge. Possibly, is it a solution or just a question? Behind, please pass the mic.
Thank you very much. Very interesting discussion. I'd like to build on the point that was just raised a bit. This idea of having integrated systems and interoperability in order to meet country demand, especially for reporting. And I'd be interested in hearing from some of the country representatives here what needs to happen to make that data useful for country reporting. I work with UN Environment World Conservation Monitoring Center, and we do a fair bit of work to support countries with reporting to MEAs, CITES included. And I know it can be very challenging for countries to integrate data that come from non-official sources, non-government sources, together with their own official data. So to make these tools, this data more useful, what needs to happen so that countries can actually use these different data sources for their reporting, particularly in the context of CITES?
Do we have a response to that from, or is that a question? What needs to happen for us to better share this data, share the information from different countries, and also within countries between different actors, the state and non-state actors? Because I think it's coming from, what is coming from this session is that there are some challenges that we experience. So what is the best practice, or what has been the experience of different actors? Do we have immediate response, or possibly someone can share success stories in the areas? Seems we don't have. That should be a take home. That should be, I think we should think along those lines, because it's evident that we, oh, there's someone? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I represent Remote Sensing Technology Center of Japan, and I think I must, for myself, I could say a layman in this area. We come to know, as a matter of fact, several years ago,
as Remy-san mentioned, that almost 4 years ago, there was a chance for us to be directly exposed to this question. So our understanding was somehow could be limited, but through this occasion, thanks to AIT, we could have this sort of gathering with many stakeholders and operators. And I was somehow impressed with the reporting of the gentleman from Wildlife Conservation Society. And obviously, you're working with many areas, many institutions. And some maybe I think there should be a lot of experiences working with different communities. So now we're talking about here is the question how we could solicit some collective actions, if we are to use the limited resources for better ways. And also we could reach some target as posted as an object for this conference. I think we could somehow best utilize such experiences of working with a variety of communities, because as I could find this through this occasion, the variety of experiences throughout the world. In the case of Nepal, or case of our friends Kenya, and so on. They depend on the areas. The experience or issues could be quite different, and that's how we could, if we are to talk about sharing information for what, in what manner, somehow could be function of their experience as well. This way, I come to think of somehow the questioning how as was introduced by through the experience of Wildlife Conservation Society working with variable communities, how you could somehow be thinking in a way, if we were to think of better ways to use such information or experiences such accumulated depending on the areas, how if we were to think of some collective ways to better share the such experiences for our somehow individual situations, then we could somehow could find some ways to utilize such experiences. And also here I could also the radio for U.S. State Department yesterday. You have also some variety of experience working with different communities. So I think it could be quite useful for us to listen to your ideas, how we could somehow solicit the sharing the information, or in what manner, or to what extent. And that could be quite helpful for us to think in a collective way through occasion like this. And maybe I'm asking too much, but I thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for that, and for soliciting for the experiences from the users, from where you sit. There was a question behind them.
Thank you. My name is Gary Collins, and I work with USAID Wildlife Asia in Bangkok. We're a regional organization, and I'll speak a little bit later this afternoon about the work of the project. But we work in Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, China, as well as Thailand. One aspect of our work is behavior modification. And I got back last night from Hanoi, where we launched a Chi campaign. Chi in Vietnamese is inner strength. And this is the third phase of the Chi campaign, trying to convince the consumers in Vietnam that consuming illegal wildlife is not a good thing, and it's not morally correct. It's not consistent with Buddhist principles. It's not consistent with the government policy of the People's Republic of Vietnam. And we had a large number of Vietnamese citizens come to the launch of the Chi campaign, Phase 3. And there were some interesting comments, and I'd like to relate to my colleagues here what some of the comments were, because this conference is not just about technology, but it's about science and innovation. Some of the comments were that perhaps we need to think outside the box, so to speak, and what if we were to take consignments of illegal wildlife and taint these products with non-lethal substances that made these products disagreeable to the consumer? What if these people got sick when they ate tiger meat, or if they consumed pangolin scales, or other illegal wildlife? Another comment was that perhaps we could put GPS locators in some of these rhino horns. That way the police could locate the rhino horns and arrest the perpetrators. Another comment that came up, which I thought was very interesting, was perhaps we don't have to do any of these actions. Maybe the consumer market would be spooked if you just put the information out there. If there were news stories that if you eat tiger meat, substances have been put in the tiger meat that instead of making the man more virile, will make him impotent. The psychology that's used, and other people joined in and said, you don't have to rely on the press. We could use social media. We could use Twitter. We could use Facebook and other means to spread the word. But I thought they were interesting comments, and I wanted to share it with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. It's interesting to get the feedback. And it's important because they inform our interventions. Because, as you say, when you're dealing with communities, the involvement and partnerships, those are the factors that we cannot afford to ignore. And that brings to the question of the interventions that we have, the innovations. As I mentioned, technology alone cannot be the silver bullet. Technology alone cannot curb or address the forest and wildlife crimes. So that's why you need that light mix between technology, which is an enabler. Then we need the right attitudes and awareness so that the communities can comply. Because the essence of all these interventions is we want to prevent resource from being degraded. We want to prevent poaching. We want to prevent trafficking. And we can only achieve this if we have the support from the communities or the actors, what we are calling the compliance programs, then the enforcement. So if we have the right mix of the three, technology, the attitudes, and now effective enforcement programs, coupled by the indigenous knowledge system, then I'm sure we'll be able to address the problems we've been discussing since yesterday. If we don't have further questions or comments, I don't want to prevent anyone from making a comment or a question. Then I would like to thank you for your patience, for your participation, and I'll hand back the session to the chair to continue with it. Thank you very much. Also, please.
To suggest something. Now, thank you very much, Chair. As we listened to the various presentations, not just now, but even yesterday, There are various types of technologies that are coming up, or they are in use. Not necessarily that they are being used, all of them at one particular time, but different countries are using different technologies towards the coming of wildlife and forest crimes. My suggestion, if it is allowed, is to form an independent working group to discuss the integration of these technologies to assist ourselves, so that we can see whether we can assist other countries with the other technologies that other countries have used and they are successful, so that we can work together as a team to assist ourselves. That is just a suggestion.
Thank you. I think that has been captured by the Secretariat in terms of her suggestion. So thank you very much, and let's welcome the chair to continue with the rest of the session. Thank you.
Before we close this session, may I remind you about tomorrow's field trip. Tomorrow, Department of National Park will organize the field trip to Khao Yai National Park. Khao Yai National Park is the first national park in Thailand, established in 1962, about 56 years ago. And the park is a part of Dong Phaya Yen Khao Yai Forest Complex. And this complex is World Heritage Site declared by UNESCO. The field trip intend to highlight some of challenges that the park officials are facing. For example, human and wildlife conflict and illegal activity, and showcase good practices institute to conserve the biodiversity within the national park. We will leave AT early morning and will be at Khao Yai National Park about 10:30. After that, you will meet superintendent, and he will present about stakeholder engagement to address human-wildlife conflict and application for technologies to curb illegal activities. After that, we have time to walk to the very beautiful nature trail. And after that, we will have lunch with maybe spicy food, som tam or something like that at the park. After that, the superintendent will take us to Khao Phang Ma operation. You can see how to solve the problem about wildlife and human conflict. And after that, we will come back to AIT again. If you never go there, you have to go there for one time of your life. If you ever go there, you have to go there again. Thank you. ขอบคุณมากครับ And so I have to thank you all of you again for your cooperation, and thank you my co-chair Mr. David Karanja. He worked very well. Thank you. ขอบคุณมากครับ
Just a quick reminder to everyone, the next session will begin at 2 o'clock. You can receive your food tokens at the reception. Please enjoy your lunch.